Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is October 14th, 2024. You're listening and watching the Daily AI Show Live. And today we're going to be talking about Tesla. We'll talk about their recent We Robot event that they had last week. But we're also going to be talking about whether Tesla is, they're not a car company. We'll talk about what they're currently doing. Are they really moving more towards AI? Obviously, that's the idea of the show. But also, it was an underperforming event in terms of stock prices and things like that. You have other companies like Uber who consider this to be actually a success for them. We'll get into why Uber was excited about the We Robot event and everything else. Today, we have Jumi, Andy, Beth, and I'm Brian. We'll see if anybody else comes in the door. And before we go any farther, just know that you can join us every single weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. The best place for you to get the comments in and be part of the conversation, and a lot of times we'll bring those comments into the show, is actually on YouTube. So if you go over to YouTube and you happen to have the time, any weekday, 10 a.m. Eastern, you can join the conversation. So if you have anything to say about Tesla, you can jump over there and we will bring it in. So welcome to all of our folks that are coming in the comments. You can go over to thedailyAIshow.com. And every single week, we're going to test this out right now. Every single week, we put out a newsletter. It just went out yesterday morning. It was episode or edition 19. I always say episode, but it was the 19th edition of our newsletter. It's going strong. It's growing week over week over week. We have tons of new people coming in and subscribing to it. So if you want to be part of that, if you want to get more than you can get on the show, then just hit this QR code you see on the screen and you'll get all signed up for it. So super easy, no problem at all. Okay, so welcome everybody. Welcome back from the weekend. I hope everybody had a good one. I spent mine going back up and down ladders as I undid what we had to do for the hurricane. It's one of those things that, as you're putting up the ladders and up the shutters, with every one that we were doing late last week, me and my neighbor Jason would say, these have to come back down, right? And I'm like, yeah, they got to come at some point. They all got to come back down. So that's what happened yesterday. I'm a little sore, but I'm excited to be here. And if it looks slightly different to all of our listeners and watchers, it's because today is officially the first day that we move over from StreamYard to Restream. So thank you to Restream for putting together a nice product. They're not sponsoring us, so I don't mean thank you in that way. But I do mean they put together a good product, and Beth says, do it, Restream. You should definitely sponsor us. But let's get into the topic of the day, which is Tesla. They had this event last week. I will be honest with you, probably because of the kind of week I was having with the storms. I had no prior knowledge to this. It quite literally showed up on my YouTube TV screen, and this is happening in 3 hours. I think it was maybe Thursday night. But East Coast time, and it started an hour later. So I didn't even look at it till the morning. I was interested to see what they did. It seemed like a very slick, Google-esque Tesla type, Apple type event. I mean, Tesla had basically, from what I could tell, had used the whole Warner Brothers backlot essentially for this big introduction about their cyber taxis. How does he say Robovan? He doesn't say Robovan.
He said Robovan.
Yeah, Robovan, not the Robovan, which would totally make more sense. But anyway, that's another. We'll talk about that. So, and then they had the Optimus robots out there, which I will talk about how they immediately disappointed me. But that's something that comes up quite a bit. We talk about. I can say already. Jimmy's like, yeah. So let's dive into it. I don't know, where do you want to guys get started? Because I kind of thought maybe it'd be good to just quickly set the stage of what does Tesla even do right now? Because I'm not sure that everybody actually kind of knows, but I want to look this up as well. And you could basically break it down into 4 sections. We know they make cars, right? So there's the S and the Y and the 3 and the Cybertruck and all that. But what was it? Solar City? Was that the name of the company that they eventually rolled into Tesla? And so Tesla makes, your rooftop solar panels that they're actual look like tiles. And they have their battery system, right? Their mega packs and things like that. They don't do that just residentially. They do that commercially, where they've helped out cities and things like that with their battery solutions. Then they have their entire charging network, which in itself could be its own business. I got very excited just a few weeks ago when my Chevy Bolt now became available to use the Tesla supercharger network. That's massive. massive. In fact, I'll be taking the Bolt up to Georgia in a few weeks. And one of the reasons my family feels really, really good about it, I would have done it anyway, but just that cherry on top is now that I can stop in any Tesla supercharger with an adapter and use it. So their charging network is massive. And then their fourth and final, which is now escaping me, is their services department, which I think we kind of already know, but I mean, obviously they're servicing their vehicles. They have lease programs. Tesla, don't forget, does not have a right to repair. So if your Tesla breaks, Tesla's the only person that could do it. Tesla can and has bricked cars that people have bought in their own garages and driveways. So interesting, and not like buying a Ford or something like that, where Tesla has a lot more control over the vehicles because of the software systems. So all that to say, those are the things they're doing right now. And then we see Robot event, and it really feels more like an AI event, which is why we wanted to have this conversation today. So let's get your guys' reactions first on the event and what you saw. And let's dig into, the AI side of things, and is Tesla, would we even call Tesla a car company? Is that even correct? Or are they an AI company? Are they a robot company? How do we define Tesla in the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, I first of all would say I always enjoy a good performance. And this, like you said earlier, this definitely what I would call a slick video. Um, they did a great, song and dance.
Mhm.
Like you said, it's on the backlog set, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's literally prepared, right?
Yeah. It's lit.
So
It's lit. It's got it had the
yeah,
glossy streets with the rain on them, everything.
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah. So it's definitely a show. And I'll go into later on that, but because it was a show, I will give them a little bit of slack on the other issues that we'll talk about, or the reactions. Okay.
Okay.
Um, I enjoyed the show. It's cool stuff, so cool stuff goes over well. Uh, but for the question of what kind of company Tesla is, it's a vertical integration company. They make a product for consumers. They make all the supporting products for those other products. They provide all the services, enforce all the services for that product. To me, it's a overall subscription service to a hardware set, right? Whether you generate your power with Tesla, whether you store your power with Tesla, whether you use that power to charge your transportation vehicles, and eventually, or their hope is that you will then integrate their robotics and
Mhm.
AI into the process. But I wouldn't identify them as we make X. I think it's more about he wants to create a vertical supply chain that every single portion is controlled by them, or as much as possible. This could lead to several pros in terms of costs, and things like that. But it's more a matter of being able to control as much of the supply chain as possible. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Andy, Beth.
All right, I'll jump in. Hi, Beth. I think they're an AI company. Tesla has been working on what they call full self-driving for a long time, which requires a really huge investment in AI. And while they haven't yet arrived at the point where they have full self-driving vehicles on the road, many Tesla owners have this partial autonomous driving feature and have been using it for some time. So that they're using their fleet of existing customer-owned vehicles as a way of beta testing that full self-driving mode. So they have an enormous data set. But their competition, Waymo, particularly from Google, is more advanced in their application of full self-driving to robotaxi fleets. So the possibilities of investing in AI and then finding market applications for that is pretty broad for Tesla. And it goes to robots, personal robots. And at this event, it was promised that there would be the possibility in the near future to buy one of the Optimus robots for about the price of a car. So call it under $50,000 for a very, general purpose robot. That is an enormous market. There are a lot of people around the globe who would like to have some assistance like that. And as that matures as a marketplace, that price per robot will probably come down, as I think Elon optimistically suggests, to the $20,000 to $30,000 range. And that makes it reachable. There are people paying $20,000 now for a bicycle. So a robot is well beyond that. The future vision of robotaxis is, I think, pretty clear. And the ramp to that is going to be, pretty soon, like maybe not next year, and that's one of the issues that came up in this particular reveal by Elon, is disappointing to investors that he's saying, well, maybe before 2027 will they get to the robotaxi vision. But before that time, he's saying, Tesla owners, once they turn on and I guess certify full self-driving, can use their vehicles in some, to be announced Uber type software system that you would have to download on your iPhone or your Android. And then you can call a Tesla to come and get you and take you someplace else. That may be one of the first ways that all of the current Uber drivers and Lyft drivers out there start to shift their purchasing away from Priuses and other inexpensive to operate vehicles and much less expensive than Tesla vehicles, may decide that it makes sense for me to buy a Tesla. Why? Because I can use that Tesla without me being in the vehicle to get my Uber and or Lyft, payday.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's, the vision that Elon was talking about is that, hey, Andy, you got space. You have an area to do contactless charging, on the farm or something like that. Start with one and pay that off, and then buy another. And then now you have two cars that can go out and do lifts in your area. Andy, you may end up having 3, 4, or 5 of these Teslas that are all doing passive income for you because they're all going out and doing ride hail in your local area, whatever. And it sounds great. I mean, I can remember Amazon reaching out to me, not for driverless, but Amazon reaching out to me and saying, hey, do you have any interest in owning a fleet of Amazon vehicles? You can start small. You can start in your area. You get a couple drivers. You start expanding, right? That was like maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I remember getting an email saying like, let us know if you're interested in this. This is the minimum investment, blah, blah, blah. Right. So it sounds great. A lot of what he talked about sounds great, but that's really where I think it ends for me. I guess not saying you're not, by the way, Andy, because you haven't said this, but I did find it to be a highly produced, slick presentation. And really, if I'm being honest with you, what I saw between the lines, what I was reading between the lines is like the Robotaxi will be more than 2027 away because Elon Musk is perpetually wrong on his guesses. I do believe, though, that you're right, Andy, that the Model 3s and the Model Ys, I think, are the ones he mentioned, that would come first, right? There would be some ability, but that's only going to be in some select cities. There's just simply not my town is not like Phoenix or places in California who have had these Waymos or other laws put in place because they've been building this up, or like Scottsdale, I think, in areas like this that have had Waymos driving millions of miles up to this point.
Right.
I don't have
And
that
so
in my area.
why would you call a Tesla if you have had experience with Waymo being incredibly reliable?
Incredibly reliable. We just saw
Right?
those stats, right? Yeah.
Also, to the point that to my point that Andy started, they have had full self-driving, not meaningful self-driving, for quite some time.
Mhm.
So then what is that? Full self-driving really? Full self-driving, right? Like you have like you you have like a language identification problem to move to something that actually works and
Mhm.
is full self-driving. But to your question, the Tesla is a data collection company.
Yeah.
They are a data collection company that has their data collection units for purchase, and their cars and their right, like that is what they are, and that is going to be really interesting. Come back to for tomorrow's show because we're going to talk about spatial intelligence
Hmm.
and the ability to understand the world, right? And we have tons of literature, we have tons of video, and we have ways of language models learning to understand static concepts of the world or video concepts of the world. Tesla and XAI is, I think, has an advantage even above the countries that do a lot of camera surveillance.
Hmm.
I think Tesla has a huge advantage because their data collection units drive all over the place. Like
Yep.
full self-driving isn't the point. Or at least for this, the amount of spatial awareness, I know what the world looks like because I go through and I have like, I don't remember the number of cameras, but Tesla has something like 8 cameras, 10 cameras. That may be an
Yeah, I'm not sure. And then some are
underestimation,
LiDAR and some are radar, right? And all, like there's
eh,
different technologies and stuff. Yeah.
but it's regular participation in the world, right?
Yeah.
In
And
a way that's
I remember
really fun.
seeing somewhere about the, we talked about this on the show. I don't remember what show we talked about this on, but the idea of AI needing to learn how to dig a hole. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's actually a problem that could be solved through Tesla cars. And you're like, what the hell does digging a hole have to do with Tesla cars? You're like, yeah, because they sit at lights billions and billions and billions of opportunities over and collect data where part of that camera is watching people dig holes. And so if you need to turn around and teach the Optimus robot how to dig a hole, Tesla probably has the data to pull that off. And it's like, it kind of that blows your mind a little bit because you think, oh, Tesla cars are just like Waymo or anything else. All the data they collect make them better at driving cars. And then to your point, Beth, and again, we'll talk about it more tomorrow with spatial intelligence and Fifi Lee. That oh no, it's so much more. They're capturing so much more of the world than just the blinders of the horse on, which is just go forward. They're facing forward, backwards, and in every other direction, capturing the world from every single viewpoint and angle that's possible to capture the world from, so and sometimes in multiple different angles at the same time. So there might be 6 or 7 different cameras capturing the same event, whether that's digging a hole or a car crash, you know from different cars or whatever like that. So I'm with you. And in fact, I'm glad you said about the data thing, because when Jimmy, you were talking, I was like, yeah, they really are. It's not their business model, but it is their business model. It's almost like Amazon with AWS. They were just AWS, like nobody was really paying attention. Then somebody one day was like, hey, is anybody looking at AWS and how massive that business is? And people were like, oh my God, like it just Amazon kind of built that slowly and surely. And all of a sudden, AWS could easily be one of the top Fortune 500 businesses on its own. When we get back to the AI side, I'm just curious, your guys' thoughts. Let's talk about Optimus really quick, because that was a huge letdown for me. And it was because of something that I'm certainly not the only person that said. It was just obvious to me right off the bat. Then when they were like, Elon said something about like, we'll be kind to them because we're going to release them into the crowds. And there was lots of people there. The first time I heard one person interacting with it, whether it was the bartender or whatever they had doing there, I was like, oh, that's just somebody speaking through a speaker. And I was like, oh, you know what? In 1986 or something like that, I went to Universal Studios and my brother and I got to sit in the kit car from Knight Rider. And the guy talked to us through a speaker in the kit car. And I'm like, this is not impressive. It was clear because the tones and the intonations of the voices were drastically different from Optimus to Optimus to Optimus. I'm like, I don't even know if they're trying to hide this. What I hated was that it wasn't said obviously that this is the case, because truthfully, robots walking around and not sucker punching people is a a tech advancement by itself. The fact that they didn't fall over, the fact that they were during crowds, that in itself, I think you could just lean on and say, look at what we've built. But then just like Google, it's like they can't help themselves going too far. And so what you end up having is a bunch of people, instead of talking about these dozens of upright robots standing in crowds with people and having interactions, everybody says, oh, you remote controlled a bunch of robots and you talk to them through a speaker, and I'm not impressed. And I think rightfully so. That would definitely hurt if I was trying to be considered to be an advanced AI company. I don't think that helps. But what was your guys' reaction to the Optimus thing? Because I definitely was disappointed in it.
Well, this is what I was referring to earlier. Because I knew going in, as soon as I saw the opening scenes or whatnot, okay, this is obviously produced. So I wasn't terribly surprised when all of that come out. It's like, okay, all right, I'll give you a little bit of leeway on that just because I know this whole thing was a setup from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you for the most part, Brian. It's if you were trying to highlight that you are a robot company, then yes, be obvious. It's like, here we are displaying their mobility, kind of features,
Sure.
not we're trying to display its AI features or display its speech features or anything along those lines. So yeah, I think it was a misstep. I think they would have gotten everything they wanted out of it by just even like pre-programming, the walkout sequence. That was enough.
Yeah. Or the dancing ones. They were dancing in what appeared to be a cage over, like that was a little Vegas. They were dancing in a cage, a lit up cage above the audience. I was like, that's an image.
But and that probably would have been enough, where it wasn't trying to be the interactive part. Because as soon as you bring in people into a one-on-one interaction, that's going to highlight all of those kinds of potential pitfalls.
Yeah. Well, and there's use for robots that are remote controllable, right?
Of course.
What I'm seeing today is that the walking behavior was not remote controlled. They can ambulate on their own.
Right.
So Brian, you said impressive that they were walking amongst people and not sucker punching. Maybe the sucker punch was not was under human control. The balance on the walking out was something that they can do. But there are so many use cases in manufacturing and that kind of stuff where the ability to have a fleet of robots that you can control, right, through a mocap machine, and maybe there's a switch or something, right? Like, oh, I'm going to number 2 because now we need to do this to tweak something or whatever that is. Like that is useful. That's actually like a pretty cool use case. It's just not the one they highlighted. So
I mean, drones are great, right? They go places that are unsafe for humans and they report back so humans don't have to crawl through rubble and stuff like that. So I'm with you, Beth. Like, yeah, there's tons of reasons why an Optimus robot would be helpful today if it could only do exactly what they showed it doing at the event. But you have the CEO saying everybody gets their own R2D2. Everybody gets their own Rosie from the Jetsons. And that's absolutely not what they were demonstrating. So you have somebody on stage saying one thing, and not just about the Optimus robots, but also about the Robovan, the Robovan, and also I have to think about how he says it, the Robovan and the Cybertaxi or Robotaxi, depending on which one he used. He used both. Just that disconnect. And so you have people, well, for better or worse, listening to every word that Elon Musk is talking about. By the way, this is the same CEO who caught a rocket with pinchers over the weekend, like at SpaceX, right? Like, I mean, so do I believe all of this will come true? Yes, I do, because there's no reason for me to doubt Elon Musk's vision, but in the long term. But when you're showing people this in the short term and saying this is a before 2030 type solution, and you get everybody, worked up, and I go, yeah, but probably not. But also, like, why? I mean, I know you have investors or whatever, but wow, you're already so impressive. Tesla, you're already so impressive with everything you do with AI and all that. Why not just lean on that more? But it's like this need to show something that is smoke and mirrors. And I don't quite get that. I don't understand how that actually helps, because all your fanboys and all your Tesla fanboys, they're going to get excited about it no matter what, But the reality is the RoboVan, there's something similar to that already in Orlando, Florida. It's autonomous and it's a people mover in Orlando. Like, it's been around for a while because Orlando's the city wanted to see that happen. And I'm sure it exists in other places too. That's just the one I'm aware of.
I saw some negative commentary about the design of the Robotaxi. So this is a new product in the Tesla lineup that is focused on doing the autonomous, on-call vehicle market, and it's a coupe. Like, that kind of surprised me and others. Like, why would it be so small? Well, I was in Europe this summer, as you were, Brian. And when you go to Europe, there aren't big pickup trucks cruising the streets. All the cars are small on that scale. And so I think that may be sort of a future vision, that all the vehicles that we want to put on the road, we want them to be smaller. And that solves some of the parking issues. Not, even for these self-driving vehicles, they have to stop somewhere, and you don't want them to take up a huge amount of space when they're idle. So maybe they're thinking carefully about the economies of space and mass and all of those things. But that particular vehicle may not be the kind of vehicle I would want to call upon unless it was just me and maybe me and my wife taking a ride somewhere. But I have a bigger crew than that.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I don't need the Robovan to do it. I just need a 4-passenger vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Was it only just 2 seats in the Robotaxi? I thought so. But I looked at it, I said, oh, I wonder, because I thought the same thing, Andy. Like, wow, that's the RoboVan is like, they said 10 to 12 or something like that, maybe more, but it was something like that with seats. And I think you could stand maybe like a bus. But then, for the second option to be 2 seats, but maybe to your point, maybe the data suggests that 80% of the time people only need a ride for themselves or a plus one, so maybe it is just that we're just, because I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, that doesn't really solve my family's problem. But I guess Uber's not going away. 4-passenger, 6-passenger, 8-passenger Uber rides aren't going away. So maybe this is just a way to carve out that niche. And maybe the data says, oh, 90% of the time it's only one person or two.
And the fallback is they'll have you can call on the Tesla app, the Tesla Robotaxi app. You can call a 2-person vehicle, or you can call a Model S,
right?
Or an X, right? You'll be able to select among them.
Yeah.
So the other piece that I found really impractical is the ladybug wing doors. Right?
Oh yeah.
So like when the door, I mean, it's cool. Yep, it looked impressive. But when you're in a car and the door doesn't close, you don't have, you could just reach out and grab the door and close it. The mechanics, at least of me, I don't know, maybe if you're really tall, have super long arms, you're going to be able to I was looking at it like, wow, that looks like a lot of work when that doesn't close automatically.
A sliding door like on a minivan isn't going to hit anyone.
Right.
But a gull wing door like that,
yeah,
couldn't hit something if the vehicle hasn't carefully positioned itself too far away from the curb.
Right? I imagine that, Andy, somebody's stuck in the rain and they're just trying to get in the Robotaxi really quick and get out of the rain. And to your point, the door is going like halfway up and somebody starts making their way to Robotaxi. It's like, nope, I don't have the clearance. And it goes back down. They're like, okay, back up to the curb again. And then it comes back up again. It's like, okay, I think I'm clear. Run to the taxi, get rained on some more. Halfway up, it comes back down. They're diving into the car. Yeah, there's going to be. And I think I'm not super up on all the Teslas, but doesn't the Y or the X have the bifold doors that come more up and more like it's above your head.
Yeah, one
It
of
seems
their
like that
models
would be a
does have
smarter.
that. That's right.
Seems like that'd be a smarter. I'm with you, Beth, and that would be a smarter move for those types of vehicles because the gull-wing doors aren't practical always. They look cool, but they look cool in wide open spaces, not parking decks and not places that are gonna be under awnings where you might be picking people up or whatever the case, or trees for that matter.
I was more surprised that they didn't go with the sliding doors. Like if anyone's
that
seen a
does seem to make-
minivan that takes up the least amount of room, it doesn't spread out or up, and it doesn't have to go past the body of the car in and of itself. I think that probably would have been a better design. Maybe there's more mechanical points of failure.
Sliding doors? Now I'm guessing myself. Was the RoboVan sliding doors? There probably was, right?
Yeah, the RoboVan is. Yeah.
Robovan.
Robovin.
Robovin.
Honestly, I listened to him in like 2 times speed because I was just trying to get through the event the next morning. And he said it, and I was like, I honestly don't know what they're calling this product. I had no idea until Matt Wolf did his video, and he's like, he keeps on calling it the Robovin. I don't know why. It's RoboVan. And then when Matt Wolf said it, I thought, oh, okay, because I'd never seen it written out. The word written out. I was like, what are they calling this?
I'm sorry, but no matter how many times Elon Musk says Robovin or Robovin or whatever he said, nobody's going to pronounce it any other way than RoboVan.
Well, I don't know about that, Andy. Might have some pushback. Remember, there is the whole GIF thing. I mean, and he might put a memo that says everyone in Tesla has to call it a Robovin.
Yeah. By the way, it is only and always ever will be GIF, right?
Right. So we're moving on to the next segment.
Look, GIF is a peanut butter. Okay?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yes. And this is the event. Hello, meet my child Robot, my other child Robotaxi, and my third child Robovin. Right?
Yeah. Which really is just the difference of Target versus Target, isn't it? Isn't it really just aren't you really saying to say I'm going to Target or I'm going to Target? They have what I like over there. Okay, so as we're sort of talking about this, so the question is, okay, Jen, by the way, I want to put this up here really quick. Jen said someone clipped Brian out of context saying there's no reason not to trust Elon's vision, which I think is hysterical. But on that point, because I think it's funny, but also here's my point to that. I do want to expand on that. Generally speaking, if you go all the way back before the Model S came out, and Elon Musk was saying he was going to do this stuff, or go to space, or send civilians into space, or create a boring company that was going to bore under Las Vegas and create new tunnels, or not as much, but the Hyperloop, also something. I mean, it wasn't something he invented or whatever, but he was pushing for a while. I still think we might see a Hyperloop, with the magnetic lev and all that kind of stuff. There's still companies working on that. These things, for the most part, have eventually come true. And so I guess my perspective is, I have confidence in not him, but the visions that he talks about and what we're seeing as an AI future. I do believe that. I do believe people will have an Optimus or something like that is a home healthcare type robot that can help move people in and out of beds, get them to the restroom, put out their meds, make meals, or at least retrieve meals and bring it back to them if they're bedridden, sit with people, make sure they don't hurt themselves, like an attentive animal would or something like that. I think there's so many things that are going to happen that are good for society for this. I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know if Tesla's going to be the company that does it, because there's certainly many, many other robotic companies that are doing similar things. I do wonder, though, is it just for investor? Was that the point? Because the main thing coming out of this We Robot event was that actually the investors were not impressed. So back to you, Jimmy, if the whole point of spending, I don't know, how much do you think this cost for them to put this on? A lot, right? Whatever that number is, it was a lot. They had the whole Warner backlot or whatever they had, the WB backlot. Okay, it costs a lot of money. What's the point of the event if it's not as a publicly traded company to get investors excited about your competitor to Uber or otherwise, only to get to the other end of the event. And what I've read, at least online, is no, their stock prices actually took a hit from this. This wasn't the slam dunk.
I don't think it was really supposed to be an investor event, or
Okay.
I'd like to think they didn't plan it to be an investor event. I think it was more of their attempt at increasing the hype cycle around their product.
People
Right.
having podcasts about it.
But yeah, exactly. Look at that. We're talking about it for 40
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah. So I think it's just part of that hype cycle that we're seeing out of all big tech, right? They announce something. This is the concept car, car show kind of thing for Tesla, right? This is the latest product. Check out in a few years. And there's the undertone. It's like, and in a few years, that's when you'll see it. But here is all the flash and slickness that people come to expect and maybe even secretly want from all the big tech hype. I mean, I think in our position, we're probably a little sick of it because we see it every day. But for people who aren't paying attention, this makes a big splash and people are seeing cool robots and robotaxis and, all of these kinds of things and giving them, nostalgic remembrances of DeLoreans and Back to the Future and all those kinds of things. So it's checking all of those 40-year-old boxes for me,
Yeah.
You can tell I'm a fan of things.
Right.
So yeah, I could see what this is touching upon. Now, not to get a little out there, but I think everything that Elon has done in all of his major companies is put together a solution for his long-term visions, like colonizing Mars,
Mhm.
right? We can see everything, even like the Boring Company. That's to build underground transportation or underground, housing or whatnot that you can freely do on another planet without any regulation. Number two, the robotics to help everybody do everything. Everything is autonomous. You can travel around in your Robovan, take you from place to place while you're exploring the planet, mining it, whatever they plan to. Starlink gives you all the communication you need for, planetary communication. So everything is mapped and, identified and monitored and all those kinds of things. SpaceX, that's how you're getting there, and they just had, like you had mentioned, they just had their big test for their Starship, which for me, I've always been a big space guy. So that was huge. So these are all these bigger boxes. So that's, I think the Tesla arm, he's kind of created this method. It's like, here's all these support technologies that we need. We're going to need power generation. We're going to need to be able to do, using solar cells or convert, matter or, all those kinds of things, one thing into another. And so I think that's what we're seeing is he's using hype cycle to get everybody excited about a product. That's the current, the current few years, and then putting all of these technologies together for a larger project down the line. I mean, he mentioned it like 10 years ago, right? He was thinking 2040 for his Mars colony. So we'll see. We'll see. If 2030, everyone's got their own Robotaxi, great. I don't know what that's going to look like in on the streets, but that probably goes to like what Andy was saying is about, if everyone was just traveling by themselves, the mass majority of people drive cars, it's just by themselves, and we just make smaller cars, and then the solution just might be, here everybody has this car instead, or like that's the idea. But yeah, I think overall they're all components for the larger collective plan for them.
So do you guys think that in your not lifetime, but your driving lifetime, whatever that is, at some point somebody says, hey, maybe don't drive anymore, maybe take a robotaxi. But do you think that in our driving lifetime that we maybe we'll go down to, if we're a two family, if we're a family with 2 cars, we might go down to 1 because the needs are met for that secondary vehicle by just the ease and use of always being able to get a Robotaxi or a Waymo. I don't mean just Robotaxis, but I just mean in general. Do you see that? Or do you see that my 13-year-old daughter, by the time she's 25, would opt not to own a vehicle at all because, kind of like kids today, it's too easy to just get an Uber and take it where you want to do. And so what's the point of me holding insurance on my vehicle and having to do all that stuff that's getting increasingly more expensive if I can always get a ride that always takes me, whether it's autonomous or it's got a driver in it, a la Uber?
I think it depends on how close to the city you live.
Ooh,
Okay.
good point.
So if you are in a highly urban environment, you live in a city or just outside the skirts of the city, then yes, there's less and less need for you to have your own vehicle. If it becomes more, there's a reason why the electric scooters are really popular downtown, right? So if everything's available and you can get it at any time and you're only traveling within the city or the outskirts of the city, then you're good to go. You don't need to have a vehicle, which I think is a good direction because, this is just a different kind of mass transit, right? Probably not as efficient as having a bus or a subway or, light rail or something like that. But it does solve for a congestion issue. If nobody in a city needs to have a car,
Right.
then they'll only have what is needed to support the transportation needs.
Sure.
Well, and
Outside of that, suburbs and rural, that I think you're still going to want your own vehicle, because if you're driving 2 hours to do anything,
yes.
I think you need your own vehicle.
But the other point that Brian was asking about in terms of needing a separate car, you like if for families who have 2 different places to go,
Mhm.
what self-driving offers is stagger your arrival times, right? Okay, so we're gonna drive the kid to school,
Mhm.
and then the car is coming back, right?
Sure.
And then it's driving somebody to work, and the
Right.
car is going somewhere and charging itself during that time. Like, you don't need parking. If you can be more flexible in this context, you do actually need fewer vehicles.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I mean, look, at least in my limited family experience right now, as things are, it hasn't always been this way. One of our vehicles drives significantly less than the other one. And I don't know that everybody's that case, but I can definitely see where that particular vehicle, whose job is only to go around town locally anyway, that's the only reason. It's like it solves all the other reasons. I could see that car being replaced if, I mean, hell, we could probably do it today. I live in a suburbia, so I could probably do it with Uber today. And I don't know if that cost works itself out, but it'd be interesting to do. You talked about like rural and stuff, Jimmy. I mean, I'm going to get a fleet of Robotaxis, paint them John Deere green and soup them up and I'm going to make a killing out in more rural communities and stuff like that with some fun looking vehicles, because I think that would be super fun. All right, well, we should probably wrap this up. I'm sorry, did anybody else have a comment?
No, I was just gonna say that I feel like we've talked about this on a show, right? Your car, it's your car, goes
Yeah.
into the city, drops you off, and then logs into Uber, and your car is giving people rides the
Yeah.
whole day and then comes back. Like, yes, pay for yourself, but that's cool. Bring it into the family. You're one of the family now. Like, go earn.
It sounds great until somebody smokes in my car, and then I'm going to lose my mind. So, and I mean, there's worse things than smoking, obviously, too. I mean, Uber drivers have to do with that, but I would, an Uber driver's in the car can say, "Hey, get out," or "Hey, there's no smoking in a car." I don't know how quite that works in the future with robotaxis. If somebody's there, there's not a human there to monitor it, but maybe
It's just going to be
maybe
auto fines. We detected the carbon
it'll be like
monoxide
planes or something.
sensor, so we're charging you an extra $50 for
Yeah.
cleaning. Thank you.
That'd be the worst. So, but just the idea, I mean, that's the whole reason why people say don't buy like used rental cars, right? Because they're not people, they don't own them. So they have no problem slamming them over curbs and God knows what, ruining alignments and things like that. So I do worry about that. Like, yeah, sure, it's making you money Also, it's only going to last 3 years. You bought this $30,000 car, which sounds great, but it will be trash in 3 years. And could you recoup that money because people were abusing it while they were in it or whatever the case is? So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. As Beth said, tomorrow we have spatial intelligence, which does really kind of leap right off of this conversation. So come back for that. Wednesday we'll have the news. There's we're talking about OpenAI's real-time API and how that's really helping with business interactions. And then Friday is our 2-week recap show where we'll be talking about all these events and more over the last 2 weeks, not only this week, but last week as well. Don't forget, you can go to the Daily AI Show .com. You can go, I'll put up the QR code again. It's probably easier to do that, or just go to the dailyishow.com. You can learn about all of our episodes on there. Jen had a good call out. We'll make some updates. Aaron, by the way, is making some big changes to the website. So that's coming soon. He's doing a lot there, but you could also sign up for the newsletter as well. Come on back and hang out with us tomorrow. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this conversation, and we'll see you for the rest of the week. Thanks to everybody in the comments, Gwen, Jen, I saw everybody in there. Sorry, but thanks to everybody in the comments. We appreciate it, and we read them. We read all of them. Until tomorrow, guys.